What drives someone to risk it all on the world's most dangerous mountain, knowing they may never come back? From a vegan alpinist who fell between fixed lines to a porter left hanging just yards from the summit, K2 has claimed the bold, the humble, and the legendary. But one climber's fate stands apart. His body still watches over the path to the summit. Get ready to witness 20 chilling stories of climbers who never left K2.
Renato Casarotto. Renato Casarotto built his reputation on difficult solo climbs. In the Alps, he made winter ascents alone, and in South America and the Karakoram, he opened new technical routes. His wife, Goretta, was always at base camp, supporting his long and isolated expeditions. In the summer of 1986, Casarotto turned to K2. He chose the south-southwest spur, first attempted by a French team in 1979. On July 12th, he began climbing. For 4 days, he pushed upward, battling poor weather and unstable snow. At 27,230 feet, he decided the conditions were too dangerous and turned back. On July 16th, he descended the spur. By early evening, he had safely reached the bottom of the face. He was less than half an hour from base camp. Crossing the glacier, Casarotto stepped onto a snow bridge. It had been crossed safely by many teams before. This time, it collapsed. He fell more than 130 feet into a crevasse. Still conscious, he managed to call Goretta by radio. A rescue team pulled him out, but the fall had caused catastrophic internal injuries. He attempted to walk, collapsed onto his backpack, and died minutes later. Renato Casarotto was buried in the same crevasse within sight of camp. Tadeusz Piotrowski. The south face of K2 is known as the Polish line. Steep, avalanche-prone, and exposed to falling seracs, it has been called suicidal. In July 1986, Tadeusz Piotrowski and Jerzy Kukuczka became the first, and still the only, climbers to reach the summit by that route. Piotrowski, born in 1939, was one of Poland's strongest winter climbers. He made first ascents in Norway, Afghanistan, and Nepal, including Noshak in 1973 and Api in 1983. By the mid-1880s, he was respected for pushing climbs in the harshest conditions. The Polish line demanded more than 2 weeks of effort. Piotrowski and Kukuczka bivouacked repeatedly on the wall, often without food or water. On July 8th, they reached the summit of K2 at 28,251 feet, completing the first ascent of the south face. The descent followed the Abruzzi spur. Piotrowski was exhausted from the climb. At about 26,000 feet, he lost both crampons. Without them, he had no traction on the steep ice slope. He slipped and fell thousands of feet. His body was never recovered. Alison Hargreaves. Becoming the first woman to summit Mount Everest without Sherpa support or bottled oxygen, Alison Hargreaves reached 29,028 feet on May 13, 1995, was only the second person in history to do so. Born in 1962 in Derbyshire, England, Hargreaves built her reputation on bold solo ascents in the Alps. She climbed all 6 Great North Faces in a single season and soloed the Eiger's North Face while 6 months pregnant. After Everest, she set a new objective: to climb the world's 3 highest peaks, Everest, K2, and Kanchenjunga, all without supplementary oxygen. Later that summer, she turned to K2. On August 13, 1995, Hargreaves reached the summit with a small international group. The mountain was unstable, with winds strengthening across the upper ridges. The climbers began their descent down the Abruzzi spur. A sudden storm developed into a full blizzard, bringing whiteout conditions and hurricane-force gusts. Several climbers disappeared into the storm. Hargreaves was last seen descending the ridge before being carried away by the wind. She did not return to camp. Her body was later found high on the face, anchored by the snow where the storm had left her. Julie Tullis. The achievement of becoming the first British woman atop K2 lasted only 3 days. Julie Tullis reached the summit on August 4, 1986. By August 7th, she was dead. Tullis, born in 1939, was both a climber and a filmmaker. With Austrian mountaineer Kurt Diemberger, she formed what became known as the highest film team in the world. Together, they documented expeditions in the Himalayas and the Karakoram before attempting K2 themselves. The summer of 1986 became known as the Black Summer. Storms battered the mountain, trapping several teams high on the Abruzzi spur. Tullis and Diemberger summited, but after days above 26,000 feet, her strength collapsed. She slipped on the descent, and though Diemberger's belay caught her, the fall likely caused internal injuries and loss of coordination. They reached Camp 4 as the storm intensified. Trapped inside their tents, climbers had no fuel to melt snow and no food left to eat. Dehydration and exhaustion set in. On the night of August 6th or 7th, Tullis died inside the camp at 26,000 feet. Her companions placed her in a nearby crevasse. Muhammad Ali Sadpara. He once climbed Broad Peak and returned to base camp the same day. A 26,000-foot round trip most climbers need several days to survive. Muhammad Ali Sadpara used no bottled oxygen. He carried second-hand gear, hauled loads for other teams, and still kept returning to the highest and most dangerous peaks on Earth. From the village of Sadpara in Gilgit-Baltistan, Pakistan, he began his career as a high-altitude porter. Over time, he established himself as one of the strongest Himalayan climbers, summiting 8 8,000-meter peaks, including the first winter ascent of Nanga Parbat in 2016. In January 2021, Sadpara joined John Snorri of Iceland and Juan Pablo Moore of Chile for a winter attempt on K2. On February 5th, they left Camp 3 in extreme cold. Other climbers reported seeing them above the bottleneck, a narrow gully of unstable ice at 26,000 feet. After that, they disappeared. For days, helicopters searched the upper slopes. In July, climbers found 3 bodies high on the face, still clipped to the rope. Muhammad Ali Sadpara died standing at nearly 27,000 feet, just 1,200 feet short of K2's summit. John Snorri Sigurjonsson. The winter of 2021 marked the deadliest season on K2. Among those who never returned was John Snorri Sigurjonsson, the first Icelander to climb the mountain. Born in 1973, Snorri gained national recognition after summiting both K2 and Broad Peak in the same year. In 2017, he also climbed Lhotse, an achievement that earned him the gold medal of the Iceland Touring Association for advancing mountaineering in his country. In November 2020, he returned to Pakistan for a winter attempt on K2. No team had ever completed a winter ascent before that season. Snorri joined Pakistani climber Ali Sadpara and Chilean mountaineer Juan Pablo Moore. In early February, the 3 men prepared for their summit push. Conditions were brutal. Winds reached hurricane force and temperatures dropped to minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit. On February 5th, they left Camp 3. Other climbers reported seeing them above the bottleneck at more than 26,000 feet. After that, contact was lost. Rescue efforts searched the upper slopes for days, but no trace was found. In July, their bodies were discovered high on the face, still attached to the ropes. John Snorri Sigurjonsson died near 27,000 feet on K2, less than 1,200 feet from the summit. Rick Allen. He was killed in an avalanche on K2's southeast face while attempting a new route to the summit. Rick Allen was 68 years old. Allen, from Scotland, was a veteran of some of the hardest climbs in the Himalayas. In 2012, with Sandy Allen, he completed the first full ascent of the Mazeno Ridge on Nanga Parbat, a 13-day effort that earned the Piolet d'Or. In 2018, while soloing Broad Peak, he fell from an ice cliff and was presumed dead, but survived after being located and guided back to safety by drone. In July 2021, Allen returned to the Karakoram with partners Jordi Tosas of Spain and Stefan Keck of Austria. Their goal was a new line on K2's southeast face, climbed in alpine style, while raising funds for refugee children in Myanmar. During the ascent, an avalanche struck the face. Tosas and Keck escaped with minor injuries and were rescued. Allen did not survive. Rick Allen's last climb ended on K2, on the southeast face he had hoped to open. Fredrik Eriksson. No summit this time, going for a new attempt on August 5th. Those were the last words Fredrik Eriksson sent from K2 before his death. Eriksson, a 35-year-old professional ski mountaineer from Sweden, was known for extreme descents on the world's highest peaks. He had already skied from Shishapangma and Gasherbrum 2, and attempted descents on Dhaulagiri and Kangchenjunga. His goal on K2 was to climb the mountain, then ski from its 28,251-foot summit. In 2009, an earlier attempt ended in tragedy when his partner, Michel Fait, died in a fall during acclimatization. Eriksson returned the following summer to try again. By late July 2010, his team was pinned by weather. From Camp 3, he reported intense heat, avalanches rolling off the slopes, and constant rockfall. On August 6th, Eriksson set out with Austrian climber Gerlinde Kaltenbrunner and others for the summit push. Conditions worsened quickly. New snow fell, rocks continued to break loose, and the team split. Some climbers turned back. Eriksson pressed upward. Near 26,900 feet in the early hours of the morning, he fell several hundred meters. He died instantly. Rolf Bay, the longest unsupported ski journey in history. 2,360 miles across Antarctica in 105 days. That record, set in 2001, first brought Rolf Bay international attention. Born in 1975, Bay was a Norwegian mountaineer and polar explorer. He crossed both poles without support, guided expeditions in the Arctic and Antarctic, and later turned to high-altitude climbing. In 2008, with a Norwegian team, he completed the Norwegian buttress on Great Trango Tower, spending nearly a month on the wall. That same summer, he joined an international expedition on K2. His wife, Cecilia Skog, was part of the team. On August 1st, they reached the summit by the Abruzzi Spur. The descent, however, turned fatal. A serac collapse swept the route above the bottleneck, releasing massive blocks of ice across the line. Skog later reported seeing her husband carried away in the fall. Within hours, another avalanche struck, killing his teammate Ger McDonnell. By the end of the day, 11 climbers had died, marking one of the deadliest incidents in K2's history. His life ended in the serac collapse of August 1st, 2008. Sergi Mingote. Spanish climber Sergi Mingote died on K2 in January 2021 during an expedition attempting the first winter ascent of the mountain. He was 49 years old. Mingote, born in Catalonia in 1971, was an accomplished high-altitude mountaineer. He had summited Everest, K2, Broad Peak, and other 8,000-meter peaks without supplementary oxygen. Outside the mountains, he served as a local mayor and worked to promote sport and adventure as tools for education. In December 2020, Mingote joined the International Winter Expedition on K2, led by Changdawa Sherpa. The goal was historic: to reach the summit of the 28,251-foot peak in winter, something no team had achieved before. By January, Mingote had spent nearly a month on the mountain. On January 16th, while descending from Camp 1 to base camp, he suddenly fell. His GPS tracker recorded rapid movement down the slope, and nearby climbers quickly confirmed the accident. Rescue was impossible. That same day, a team of Nepali climbers reached the summit, completing the first winter ascent of K2. While history was made on the upper slopes, Mingote's climb ended abruptly below them.
Let's dive in. It's finally time for the open discussion.
Clinging to sheer ice, this is the most haunting climber's body left on K2, a chilling reminder of nature's final word. What drove him to push through the bone-crushing cold and razor winds? Was it glory? Or something darker? Now he lies suspended, untouched by time, watching the living pass by. Would you look away or stare back into his frozen eyes? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to mention #OpenDiscussion. Atanas Skadov. Atanas Skadov, a Bulgarian mountaineer, died on K2 on February 5, 2021, while descending from Camp 3. He was 42 years old. Born in 1978, Skadov became known not only for his climbing but also for his advocacy of veganism. In 2014, he reached the summit of Mount Everest from the north side, becoming the first vegan to stand on the roof of the world. Over the following years, he climbed 10 of the world's 8,000-meter peaks, including Kangchenjunga, Makalu, Annapurna, and Gasherbrum the Frères and the Second. In the winter of 2021, Skadov joined the international expedition on K2, led by 7 summit treks. The team aimed to complete the mountain's first winter ascent, a challenge that had drawn climbers from around the world. On the morning of February 5th, as he descended near the Japanese Camp 3 at about 24,000 feet, Skadov fell. According to expedition leader Changdawa Sherpa, the accident occurred while he was transferring between fixed ropes. The line was intact, but an error in changing his safety is believed to have caused the fall. His body was later recovered by helicopter and flown back to base. Atanas Skadov's final climb ended on K2, during the same season that saw the peak's first winter ascent. Art Gilkey. In 1953, Charles Houston led an American expedition on K2's Abruzzi Spur. The team of 7 Americans and 1 Englishman climbed without bottled oxygen, believing the summit could be reached in pure style. Progress was steady until a storm pinned them at 25,300 feet. For days, they remained trapped in blizzard conditions. During that time, climber Art Gilkey developed a blood clot in his leg, followed by pulmonary embolism. His condition rapidly worsened. The team decided they would not leave him behind. On August 10th, they secured Gilkey in sleeping bags and began lowering him down the mountain. That evening, one climber slipped. The fall dragged the entire team with him, all tied together by 3 ropes. Peter Schoening, holding a single belay, stopped the fall and saved the lives of 6 men. Exhausted and injured, they anchored Gilkey to the slope while cutting a platform for their tents. When they returned, he was gone. An avalanche had swept him from his anchor. The surviving climbers descended, believing Gilkey's death had saved them. At base camp, they built a small stone mound in his memory, Kenro Nakajima. 2 of Japan's leading alpinists, Kazuya Hiraishi and Kenro Nakajima, disappeared on K2 in August 2024. They were attempting a new route, alpine style, on the mountain's vast west face. That wall, first climbed in 2007 by a large Russian expedition using fixed ropes, had never been repeated in light, fast style. Hiraishi and Nakajima set off 4 days before the accident. Nakajima, younger but equally skilled, held 2 pialettes d'or. Together, they had made celebrated ascents in Pakistan, including Shispere in 2017 and Rakaposhi in 2019, both completed in pure alpine style. On K2, they climbed high into the west face. Reports suggest they fell at around 24,600 feet. Pakistani military helicopters later spotted 2 bodies on the slope, with no signs of movement. Search efforts confirmed there was no chance of survival. For Japan and for world alpinism, the loss was severe. Hiraishi and Nakajima died attempting exactly the kind of climb that had defined their careers: bold, technical, and uncompromising. Lorenzo Mazzoleni. On July 29, 1996, Italian climber Lorenzo Mazzoleni summited K2. Hours later, he fell to his death from the shoulder at 26,200 feet. He was 30 years old. Mazzoleni was part of an Italian National Research Council expedition led by Agostino da Pollenza. The team's goal was both scientific and symbolic: to place a 2-meter laser reflector on the summit for a new height survey, and to celebrate the golden jubilee of the Lecco Spiders, one of Italy's most storied climbing clubs. That day, Mazzoleni climbed the Abruzzi Spur with Giulio Maggioni and brothers Mario and Salvatore Panzeri. The group reached the summit at 4:30 p.m. After a short stay, they began their descent. The climbers were unroped. Salvatore Panzeri, just ahead, later said he never saw what happened. At some point on the shoulder, Mazzoleni slipped and fell. The others could do nothing. His body came to rest between Camp 3 and the shoulder, too high and too dangerous to recover. It remains there still. The surviving climbers made it back to base camp, completing the scientific mission but leaving their teammate behind on the mountain he had just climbed. Gerard McDonnell. On August 1st, 2008, Gerard McDonnell became the first Irishman to stand on the summit of K2. The next day, he was gone. McDonnell was born in 1971 in Kilcornan, County Limerick. He had already summited Everest in 2003, carried out first ascents in China, and led an Irish team on Denali. Music and climbing defined his life. He played the bodhrán and tin whistle, and was known among friends for his laughter as much as for his endurance. In 2006, McDonnell was injured by falling rock on K2. 2 years later, he returned with the Dutch-led NORAD expedition. After weeks of storms, conditions cleared on August 1st. 25 climbers left Camp 4. 18 reached the summit. Delays on the bottleneck, late in the day, cost them daylight. During the descent, an ice serac collapsed, killing climbers and destroying the fixed ropes. McDonnell and others were stranded overnight above 8,000 meters. On August 2nd, he attempted to help 3 injured Korean climbers entangled in ropes. In the effort, all 4 were lost in further ice falls. Ger McDonnell's body was never recovered. Mohammed Hassan. On July 27, 2023, Muhammad Hassan, a 27-year-old Pakistani porter, died high on K2. It was his first expedition above base camp on an 8,000er. Hassan was not a trained mountaineer. At home, he worked farmland, tended goats, and cut firewood. With a wife and 3 children, he joined expeditions out of necessity, hoping the income would change his family's life. On K2, he was poorly equipped. Witnesses described him in ordinary trousers and a light jacket, without down clothing, gloves, or bottled oxygen, in minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. He had been carrying ropes for Sherpas fixing the summit line. At 26,900 feet just above the bottleneck, Hassan slipped. Weighted by oxygen cylinders, he fell several meters and hung upside down in the rope. His jacket slid upward, exposing his stomach to the cold. 2 Sherpas tried to pull him back but could not. For more than an hour, he remained suspended. Dozens of climbers passed him. One witness recalled hearing a climber lightly touch his shoulder and say, "Could you go to the side so I can pass, please?" Eventually, Hassan stopped responding. He died there, still clipped to the rope, only yards from the route to the summit. Meherban Karim. They call it the Savage Mountain. On August 1st, 2008, 25 climbers set out from Camp 4 for the summit of K2. 11 never came back. Among them was Meherban Karim, a high-altitude porter from Shimshal, Gilgit-Baltistan. Born in 1976, Karim started as a low-altitude porter before becoming a HAP in 2001. He summited Gasherbrum 2 in 2003 and Nanga Parbat in 2005. On K2, clients called him Karim the Dream for his speed and strength. In 2008, he joined French climber Hugues Doberade. The two reached K2's summit late on August 1st. Darkness fell as they began their descent. Somewhere above the bottleneck, they became separated. Karim bivouacked at more than 26,900 feet, without oxygen, in minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. He survived the night, but was disoriented the next morning. Photographs showed him standing near the Serac fields east of the summit. Hours later, only a skid mark remained, with tracks leading toward the ice cliffs. He may have stepped onto unstable ground and triggered a Serac fall. His body was never found. Iftikhar Hussain. On July 14, 2023, an avalanche struck Camp 1 on K2, killing Iftikhar Hussain, a high-altitude porter from Sadpara in Skardu. He was part of a 4-member international team descending from Camp 2 during their summit rotation. K2, at 8,611 meters, is the second highest mountain on Earth and among the most dangerous. Despite the risks, 175 climbing permits were issued that season. Hussain, like many from Gilgit-Baltistan, worked on the mountain to support his family. At around 12:30 p.m., ice and snow collapsed across the slope just above base camp. 4 climbers were caught in the slide: Hussain, 2 Sherpas from Nepal, Dawa Finjo and Dawa Geljan, and fellow porter Niaz Ali from Skardu. The Sherpas and Niaz Ali survived. Finjo sustained injuries but was able to reach camp. Hussain did not. Army helicopters flew to the mountain the following day. Hussain's body was recovered and transported back to Skardu, where it was handed to his family for burial. Guanjing. On August 11, 2025, Guanjing reached the summit of K2. A day later, she was dead. Guan, in her early 40s, was an experienced Chinese climber. She had completed multiple high-altitude expeditions before attempting K2, the 28,251-foot peak in Pakistan's Karakoram Range. That summer, she joined more than 30 climbers who stood on the summit. The descent turned fatal. On August 12th, while moving down the Abruzzi Spur, she was struck by falling rocks. The impact killed her as she made her way toward the lower camps. Her body came to rest at about 17,700 feet, only a short distance above advanced base camp. Bad weather grounded helicopters, delaying recovery efforts. A Nepali Sherpa who tried to bring her down was himself injured and stranded before being rescued by helicopter. 2 days later, a team of mountaineers was dispatched on foot to retrieve Guan's remains. K2, long known as the Savage Mountain, has claimed 1 climber for every 4 who reach its summit. For Guanjing, success on August 11th was followed within hours by the mountain's lethal reputation. Her final climb ended on the descent route below the bottleneck. Miguel Angel Perez. Spanish climber Miguel Angel Perez turned back just 300 meters short of K2's summit on July 26, 2012. He was climbing without bottled oxygen, and temperatures on the upper slopes were brutally cold. Perez, an experienced Himalayan mountaineer, had summited Gasherbrum 2, Nanga Parbat, Everest, Cho Oyu, Broad Peak, Manaslu, Lhotse, and Dhaulagiri. By 2012, K2 was the only major peak missing from his record. After retreating on July 26th, he rested at Camp 4, recovered his strength, and prepared for another attempt, this time with bottled oxygen. On July 28th, he successfully reached the summit of K2. The descent proved too much. Exhausted, Perez was forced to bivouac in the open at around 27,200 feet. He made one last satellite call on July 29th, reporting that he was trying to descend back to Camp 4. A rescue was launched when contact was lost. 4 Pakistani climbers from a joint Pakistan-Italian expedition volunteered to climb again toward the upper camps. But by the time they reached the high slopes, Perez had already died. His body remains near the top of K2, above 8,000 meters, where recovery is nearly impossible. Thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Your support truly means a lot, and I'll see you next time.